joking. Paul, you really got to rein yourself in. Sorry, lead yourself in.
There you go.
See, all these people laugh at me, Gemma, but when we charter Toastmasters for dogs, the boot will be on the other foot.
Yes.
See, the club is being formed.
Look at that. You do it. It's all got to start from somewhere, Paul.
We've already got Toastmasters for golf.
Yeah.
The sister club, of course, will be Toastmasters for dogs.
Yeah.
Then the brother club will be Toastmasters for debate. Are you interested in debating? Skills? Debating?
Debating.
Yeah, debating. We're setting up a club to foster debating skills.
Good.
Which don't get much look in Toastmasters. And I got about 13 founder members signed up already. So it's just a matter of, the last few, and
look at that.
We get that. So I think there's
recorded live.
Yeah.
So good.
Okay, hello YouTube. Welcome once again to the Talk Show for Talkers on irishtalkers.com. We are coming to you live from the studios of Irish Talkers, which happens to be in 4 different places all at the same time. I wish we could do that genuinely, but there we are. So we're about to start recording. Maybe we should hide our guest actually from the stream. Shall we do that? We could hide our guest. And then
So we're after giving it away. No, she's after being seen, Myra.
Well, I know, it's terrible, isn't it? But
You know the thousands of YouTubers we have clicking on here to see what guest is.
well,
Guys, let's not spend any time debating this. Let's just, carry on.
Okay.
well,
That's class number 2, Gemma.
yep. So Gemma has actually now disappeared from the stream magically by the powers of my
Oh, that's great because I can still see her smiling there and laughing at us. That's brilliant.
Okay. So
Her photograph
you
is up
don't
now.
need
Yeah.
to turn your camera off, Gemma, though you're welcome to do so, just so we can't see you.
Brilliant.
But-
I much prefer that. That's much better now.
Yeah. Now my iPad is driving me nuts, but there we are. Right, Ted, are you ready, sunshine?
I am, Mara. My iPad is driving me nuts too.
Okay. So 3, 2, 1, go.
Hello, Toastmasters, would-be Toastmasters, listeners and friends. You're very welcome to the Talk Show for Talkers on irishtalkers.com. Our email address is info@irishtalkers.com. You can also find us on Facebook as the Talk Show for Talkers. And we look forward to your comments, your feedback. Indeed, we regard this as your evaluations. You can listen to previous shows on our website, irishtalkers.com, and we also publish the Public Speaking Weekly. This is a newspaper that's all about Toastmasters, about confidence, about how to create speeches, how to build speeches, how to build empathy and sympathy and all those lovely things that we all need in the world right now. My name is Ted Malamphy, and I'm joined as usual by the persuasive, personable, passionate Paul O'Mahony.
Welcome, listeners. Thank you very much for giving us your time. I hope it's going to be worth it.
I hope so too, Paul, and thank you for that introduction of yourself. And Toastmasters and would-be Toastmasters, what we have for you this week is a plethora of what we have for you every week. We have a thought for the week. We have a word for the week. We have a special, very special guest that you will be listening to tomorrow. And you will have to come back tomorrow. I'm not going to tell you any more about this special guest, except that this person is special with a capital S. So, and we're looking forward to that. My thought for the week, Paul, do you want me to give you my thought for the week now, or do you want to give us your thought for your word for the week?
I think we've been running this show, Ted, together for about 5 years. And every single time you forget that you're the boss, will you please take us into the talk for the thought for the week and stop?
Okay, you're right, Paul. That's what I usually do. What is important is seldom urgent. And what is urgent is seldom important. And that was given to us by Dwight Eisenhower. So I'm going to say it again. What is important is seldom urgent. And what is urgent is seldom important. And before I ask you for your interpretation of that quotation, Paul, I would just like to point out that from a business point of view, this quotation has been adapted into a simple and widely used task. It's a prioritization method. Basically what it is, there are 4 different segments to it: do, plan, delegate, and delete. So your comments, Paul, and your thoughts on that.
Well, two things, listeners. Sometimes things are urgent and sometimes they're not. So you can divide the world into all the things you have on your plate in front of you right now. Some of them are urgent. Well, leave the ones that aren't urgent, right? And some of them are urgent, right? So that's fair enough, right? Now, in the middle of all the urgent ones, there are a whole load of things that are highly important, really, really important. I've got one bit of advice. I'll come back to you about what to do with those ones because they're a special category. And then you have a whole load of things that are not important. They're urgent, but they're not important. They're things like, look, have you taken the dishes out of the dishwasher? Have you fed the cat? Have you polished the brass? You know, so they're very, very important things. They're very, very urgent things. But anyway, the main thing is the only things that really matter are the things that are really important and are urgent. So live your life dealing with what's important and what's urgent, and you're going to run yourself ragged because you actually have to spend time, Ted. And this is the beauty of your quotation, I think. You actually need to spend a goodly amount of time on things that are very important but are not urgent. Very easy to be misled by people who go around telling you should only do things that are both urgent and important. It is really, really important that you plan your life in terms of getting yourself a decent pension that you'll be able to live on. It's not urgent, only for certain people, but it is very important. They're the kind of things that came into my head about the usefulness of that quotation, which is actually used in all time management development training programs that I've ever come across. It's very tried and tested. I'd imagine our guest knows what it is whenever we get the chance to speak to her. I imagine Moira O'Brien spends all of her time doing only important things. I imagine she's also learned it as well. So what about you?
It's a good one. It's like the one that we had about eat that frog. If you eat the frog first thing in the morning, that's the most important thing you can do. And if you can do that, anything else after that is easy. So that's what it is, Paul. You're dead right. When Eisenhower came up with that, it became the prioritization method for the most important things in your life, not just as a business person, but as a person as well. Do the important things first, get them out of the way. The ones that are important and urgent, they are the ones you need to get done. The ones that are urgent but not important, well, you can plan when to deal with those things, such as emails and things, maybe 12 o'clock in the day or whatever. Delegate the ones that are not urgent or important, pass them on to somebody else, and then delete all the rubble that you have there. How many of us have inboxes overflowing with rubbish? And when we look for the good stuff, our guests put a hand up, welcome to the club. And when you get to the good stuff, then when you're looking for the good stuff, you can't find it because it's covered by all this dross that's around the place. So you're bang on. Well done, Paul. You picked up on that very nicely.
Well, you might at least have said that I wasn't a bit impudent today, Ted. That I wasn't a bit cocky or...
No, you were grand. You gave a good explanation, a good breakdown of what exactly we were talking about.
And you might say that the word of the week, which is impudent, doesn't apply to me. You see, the word of the week, listeners, this week is a 3-syllabled word. I-M-P-U-D-E-N-T, impudent. We always do a word of the week every week. So it's an adjective, and it really is quite a strong adjective. So don't be impudent, you child. That was often said to children in Limerick, where I grew up. Don't be impudent. It means don't be contemptuous or cocky, or don't be too big for your boots. It's quite a strong word, really. It involves paying no respect for the things other people care about. To be impudent, to make an impudent assertion means that you make an assertion which totally ignores the fact that the other person is interested in a completely different topic and you've just blown them out of the water. It's could almost be a kind of example of insolence. So that's the word of the week, impudent. You lack modesty, young man. You lack restraint. You're an impudent little tyke, would be another phrase that some of you may come across. We won't bother with the word tyke. It's another word of the week. But what do you think, Ted? Have you ever been called impudent?
Well, if I was, I wouldn't have realised. Certainly don't know what it means.
Well, it means it's a synonym for the word bold. And I can tell you something.
I think bold would sit with me a lot easier, you know.
Yeah, well, there you are. You see, so listeners, if you want to have more than one way of saying the same thing, that's where you get into synonyms. And Toastmasters is a great place for practicing the range of your vocabulary so that you're not stuck with only one or two options.
I thought cinnamon was something you put into a cake, Paul.
Right, Ted. We'll do a spelling contest, actually, on another...
Some other day, because I'm not good at spelling at all.
Right. So basically, the word of the week, impudent. Here's a question I have for you, Ted. And this time, I'm going to give you a bottle of champagne or a pint of
water,
Murphy's, if you want it, if you answer this question correctly. In what century did the word impudent enter the English language?
17th.
Very, very wide of the mark.
Again.
In fact, a generally underestimation of the ability of people in the 14th century to speak English. I don't think we'll be broadcasting that bit of prejudice, because in the 14th century, people started using the word impudent. So there we are. You see, it's been around a long time. How do I know? Because I use the Merriam-Webster dictionary every time we run this show. And for those of you who want to have another word alongside a bold, brassy, brazen, sassy, cocky, cocksure, there you are. Impudent is your word. It's the opposite of shy and retiring.
Oh, that's definitely not me.
And mousy. So there you are. That's what impudent means.
And that rounds up segment 1 for today's episode of the Talk Show for Talkers. And again, I want to remind you all out there, you Toastmasters and would-be Toastmasters, and all of you who want to... Tomorrow, we've got a surprise for you. We've got that special guest. And I will be speaking with this special guest. So make sure you come back tomorrow at the same time, 4 p.m., Talk Show for Talkers on irishtalkers.com. And we will introduce you to this special guest. See you then.
Great stuff, Ted.
Thank you.
Great.
So Gemma, you've got an idea now of the kind of impudence that we use on the show. We like to see a lot of laughter, so you could have boomerangs coming in behind you, hitting you on the back of the head, and you'll be high-fiving your screen and things like that.
I'm going to be laughing all the way. Don't worry about it. At first, I was like, I'm not impudent. And then when you gave the synonyms, I was like, oh, I totally am.
Yeah.
Sure. No, it's good.
You know,
it's a good one, yeah.
I wouldn't advise people to use the word in making a speech in a contest. There's too much the possibility that somebody might hear the word.
Yes.
That somebody
Impotent. Impotent.
You're an impudent person as opposed to an impotent person. Could easily be misheard.
Yes.
I can remember what I heard when I was 9 or 10, actually, and it probably has come from it. You're a right little imp.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
That's a good
You know,
connection.
that could have been it.
Yes.
Could have been. It could have been.
My parents wouldn't have known the full word, but they'd have given me the first three letters.
Well, there's a good one, Ted. I will look that up to see if impudent comes from
love that.
Yeah.
or if there is a connection. But okay, look, I'm shutting up because we're on this time.
Okay, Mar will ring us in there, so.
Yeah, we're all but ready.
All right.
Interview. Okay, Ted and guest. Right. Okay. Why didn't that work? Oh, they updated this software recently and it's completely thrown me. It's terrible. It keeps
You mean lack of preparation, Moira?
Oh, fuck off.
Mara, you asked us to watch our language. While you walk
That's
Mara into
Irish.
that.
Gemma, that's Irish. It doesn't mean what the English try to make it.
Just what it says. It's all right. You tell them.
Our guest
Moira,
is a
you
fluent
tell them.
Irish speaker, Mara, and she said she never heard that word in Irish. Don't be trying to get away with that no, Mara.
Hey, Ted, feckem le poule boss.
Feck me, feck she.
Okay, folks, we're ready to blast off on episode.
We're ready to rock and roll, so all right.
Episode 2. 3, 2, 1, go.
Welcome, Toastmasters, would-be Toastmasters, listeners and friends, to episode 2 of this week's Talk Show for Talkers. And we promised you yesterday a special guest, and we have that special guest, and this special guest name is Gemma Nevers. And Gemma, you are welcome to the Talk Show for Talkers.
Thank you very much, Ted. It's great to be here. Thank
And
you
it's
for having
lovely
me.
to be here with you. And Gemma, what club are you joined?
So I am a member of 2 clubs. The first one being North Avon, which is based in Bristol, which is southwest in England, and then also Bristol Central Speakers. The name is on the tin, also based in Bristol.
Well done. And how long have you been in Toastmasters?
I have been in Toastmasters coming up 2 years, actually. Yes.
How many years? Sorry, I missed
2.
out. 2. Oh, excellent. Well done.
2.
And what roles do you hold in your clubs?
At the minute, I'm a member. That's the biggest,
okay.
that's the biggest role I'm able to hold at the minute. However, I'm sure you're aware that we recently had our committee voting, and I have been awarded a role in North Avon. So I'll be the club president moving forward for 2021, 2022.
Well, no, that is the biggest leap that I have ever heard of a Toastmaster. 2 years in a club, and the first role, you must be impressive. That's fantastic. To become president, I thought you had to be in the club about 15 years at least to reach those lofty heights.
No way. I think it's either that or desperation, Ted. No, it's not
I
that,
don't think so. Congratulations. I can remember, I'll tell you a funny story, actually, and it's allied to the little comment you just made. When I joined Toastmasters first back in 2008, we had a 5-minute break. So I visited the bathroom. And whilst I was in the bathroom, another gentleman followed me and he tapped me on the shoulder and he says, you're just after being elected Sergeant at Arms for next year. I hadn't a clue what Sergeant for Arms or Sergeant at Arms or whatever it was. But that's how the message was delivered to me anyway while he was in the bathroom. When I came back then everybody clapped. So well done. Well done for taking on that role. That's a fantastic role. And Gemma, this particular segment, what it's about the Toastmaster that we're interviewing. And there are 5 questions. Now, you've been asked 3 or 4 questions already, so none of the 5 questions were in there. But the 5 questions are asked of every Toastmaster guest we have. The questions are exactly the same, but the answers are so much deliciously different. They are gorgeous, so the answers are lovely. So what brought you to Toastmasters?
Thank you, Ted. I always love this question because it allows me to reconnect and realign with why I joined Toastmasters. So for me personally, I was living abroad in Southeast Asia. What was that, 2019? And I was due to return back home to the UK, Bristol primarily, before, we had the pandemic situation. And I really just wanted to improve my communication skills, whether that be in my career or whether that be with my loved ones. I've always had a great connection with words. Probably I've had to, wasn't aware of a safe space to be able to do that with, people who are trying to meet the same objectives. So yes, that's why I joined.
We lost some of that, Gemma. Unfortunately, your screen froze. Your screen froze and that, but we'll carry on anyway. What has been the greatest benefit to you?
Connections. The connections, and I will layer that as well, the depth of connections. How I'm able to communicate now, whether that be through listening, whether that be through my questioning ability, whether that be through articulating how I'm thinking, feeling, not thinking or feeling, it's been just, tantamount. I couldn't even quantify it really. And as a result, in terms of my colleagues, in terms of clients that I'm working with, in terms of my loved ones, and even strangers, I find that I'm having better conversations because for all the reasons I've already said.
Incredible. That was a fantastic demonstration of Toastmaster speak there. You're very eloquent, superb.
It's working.
Yeah, well done. And what has been your biggest Toastmasters challenge to date? Because I know you're taking on the presidency of your club. That is a challenge. But to date, what would you have found challenging?
The commitment, to be honest. I think it's the commitment, even though I've been a member for 2 years. And for me, I keep the commitment at the forefront of my mind just to show up. Mm. And when you have a busy day, when you're tired, even when we were in person or now we're online, it's just to keep showing up. I think that is the toughest thing at times, even though I do it, but it's still tough some days. Like I've got Toastmasters tonight and I'd rather have the evening off, but I'm still going.
Yeah, well done. Yeah, you're so right. That commitment, it doesn't cost a lot of money, but it certainly is a big commitment from a time point of view.
Yes, yeah.
So, well, and I think we'll have you back next year when you're finished your presidency, and we'll ask you what has been your biggest challenge to date.
You know something, Ted? I think my hairdo will look like yours.
I have a fine head of skin, my dear. I have a fine head of skin. And you're right, actually. You're right. That is what could happen, all right.
Yeah.
And if you could, what would you change about Toastmasters, even though you've only been in it 2 years, but there might be things that you see now you could change?
I think for me, the variety. I love, even though irrespective to a point, if you go to any club, you're going to get the prepared speeches, you're going to have the impromptu, which is all, as we all know, that's why we're all here, all invaluable skills to learn. But I think sometimes it's the environment and the format of that. And I think sometimes if we could inject some more creativity, I've seen some other clubs get super inventive during lockdown. And I think if we could do that just ordinarily, I think in terms of the commitment, that might be easier because it doesn't get monotonous.
Very good, so. Very interesting, excellent. Yeah. And what keeps you coming back to Toastmasters?
This, talking, connecting people. For me, communication is, so important, so vital in all areas of my life. So for me, it's like just to make that commitment continuously, to make that investment in myself, in others, in my relationships throughout my life, not only now, but in the future. I don't see me quitting, even if it's not Toastmasters. I don't see me not focusing on my communication skills, like stopping in the future. Like, no way. It's too valuable. And there's always new things to learn, even like words of the week. It's like never ending. It's great.
Yeah, and you know what I say to people, Gemma, and this is something you will discover if you haven't discovered it already, that the magic that takes place in Toastmasters really comes to the fore when you learn to give back, because it's when you're giving back you really discover the organization for what it really is. As you
Yes.
said, it's an organization of communication. But when you give back, I mean, you have the ability to change somebody's life.
Yes.
And for the better, you know?
Yes, for sure.
Have you ever been involved, for instance, in any of the youth programs or Speechcraft?
No, I have not.
Okay.
I have not.
Because they're interesting. We ran the Speechcraft program in February, from February to March. It was the first digital Speechcraft run in District 71.
Oh, congrats.
Yeah, there is a Speechcraft program, but it was a paper program. But the first digital one, Maura, Paul and I had the privilege and the pleasure of running the first one, and it was a fantastic success.
Yes. So that's working with young people between what age?
Well, no, that would be the youth program, no, but the Speechcraft the Speechcraft is one aimed at people, they're non-Toastmasters. And in our situation, what I had was 5 business people belonging to a business networking group that I'm in. And 5 of them signed up for it just to improve their communication skills and their speaking skills, and helping them to get over their fear of public speaking. But, but it's run on exactly the same program that your Pathways is. So you'll have the prepared speeches, you'll have the table topics, you'll have the evaluations. It's teaching people those skills over a 4, a 6, or an 8-week program. We did it over 6 weeks. Traditionally, to be done over 8 weeks, but it's a fantastic program, and it's a great way to get new members for your club.
Yes. Well, more recently, in the past few weeks, I actually gave a presentation at work, actually just about public speaking in general, and how it's like a linchpin in my life. It's like a core pillar for me now. And as a result, of course, I mentioned that I'm a Toastmaster, and recommended, my colleagues and, their loved ones or whomever within their network to join up, because as I've said, and I'll repeat it, continues to pay dividends in my life in ways I didn't even realize when I signed up. And just to speak to one of your points just now, which I didn't mention earlier on, is about evaluation. So before, like, giving feedback and critiquing, for me, I thought, I could do it. But looking at that as a skill or an art, I never looked at it in that way before. So Toastmasters has really helped me unpack that whole process, and how I'm able to deliver feedback. How I'm also, I think, sometimes for a lot of people, which we don't take into account as well, how we actually receive feedback as well. How can you get better at receiving and accepting feedback? And I don't think, for me personally, that it's covered enough in Toastmasters, like that part, but evaluations in general, like invaluable.
Yeah, and Gemma, that's a beautiful segue to the ending of this lovely interview. And thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us. And just as I expected, fantastic answers again. Well done.
Thank you so much, Ted.
Thank you, Gemma. And tomorrow, Paul will be talking to us about inter-club collaborations. So you will want to come back for that, Toastmasters. So tomorrow, Sunday, remember, come back for inter-club collaborations. And my guest, Gemma, and me, Ted, might be collaborating with Paul on club collaborations.
That was a long-winded outro, Ted. Right.
Gemma, thank you very much for that remark you made there at the end, where you said more could be done around the issue of how to receive feedback. That's like you. I said to myself, oh, yeah, I haven't heard many people talking about how to receive feedback. One of the difficulties, I think, in Toastmasters is there's no time given for the for the person who's received the feedback to thank the people giving it. So it suggests that a really tip-top club that was going to pay attention to that, in my mind, would have the Toastmaster of the day encouraging the speakers to give feedback to the persons who have given them feedback, to use the chat, or even better still, to go into a breakout room with everybody who's given them feedback after the meeting and have a short little chat like you would over a cup of tea. But this is fairly advanced, sophisticated thinking. If you start to unpack how on earth could we get our fellow Toastmasters to be more skillful at receiving it, because you get feedback at work.
Yes.
The big issue is how do you receive it, and people watch how you receive it, and it makes a big difference to your career prospects how you receive feedback, not how you implement it, but how you receive it first. So that will be career limiting if you don't have skills in terms of expressing gratitude and appreciation and demonstrating that you've actually heard the feedback.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you've got a limited possibility of becoming a senior manager in an organization that somebody would want to work for if you didn't have some skills in that area.
Yeah. And I think for me, it's not always, it can be the piece about the gratitude and, being thankful, but sometimes it's kind of to understand that a bit more. Like, why did you say that? So instead of, again, I gave a workshop today about not taking things too personally, and why do we take things too personally? And I think it kind of just like bolts onto what we're saying, because sometimes you're misunderstanding something. Sometimes you have your own narratives running through your mind as to why you're taking it personally. Sometimes we're trying to be a perfectionist. There's a whole host of reasons, but I think it's super useful and has been useful to me when I have become so much better at accepting and receiving feedback with no fluff. Like, just give it to me.
Hey, sorry, guys. I've just remembered Ted has to leave at 4:00.
And also, can I...
Sorry.
But that's a lovely explanation, Gemma.
Can I also say, folks...
Okay, straight into the next segment. Can
we restart that conversation in segment 4?
Yeah, we will in segment 4, because that's nice,
Yeah.
So I'll call Paul in here, so...
Okay. Ted... Okay, Ted, 3, 2, 1, go.
Hello, Toastmasters, would-be Toastmasters, listeners and friends. You're very welcome to segment 3 of this week's offering of the Talk Show for Talkers. And we know that you know that he knows he's going to be telling you who he is now, Paul O'Mahony. And Paul is going to be speaking to us about collaboration from a club point of view. So, and I'm sure he'll be using me and Gemma Nevers, our guest, to collaborate with him on this. So welcome, Paul.
Okay, thanks very much. Listeners, it's Sunday afternoon, for those of you who are listening to this as soon as it hits the internet, Sunday afternoon, and there's a huge inter-club collaboration, which we're just finishing off. It's called a district conference. At a district conference in Toastmasters International, people from a whole load of different clubs actually have meetings together. And that's, let's just start out, inter-club collaboration. The most widely known one in Toastmasters International is called an annual conference, but I don't want to talk about annual conferences. There are 10 types of inter-club collaborations that I want to draw to your attention. No order of importance. You may like to write these down, but otherwise you can just listen back to the rest of the episodes. The first one is when you have a huge, long collection of speeches, people from different clubs. It's called a speechathon. And it means that you can hold a meeting that goes on 3, 4, 5, 6 hours, and you can have people from different clubs. You can have 3 or 4 different clubs participating in it. And why would you want to do that? You might want to do that because there are people in your club who want speaking practice. They want to get evaluated. There are people in your club who want to get practice at evaluating. There might even be somebody in your club who wants practice at how to be a master of ceremonies at a complex event. So that's one long meeting. Secondly, you can have a table topics marathon, 3-4 hours, shorter if you want. 3 or 4 clubs, 2-3 clubs, people from each of the clubs, loads of table topics, impromptu speaking. Why? For fun. Secondly, you got a load of people who are going for job interviews or who actually want to be better at answering questions off the cuff. That's what you get in Toastmasters. And you have table topics evaluators in as well. There are people who are going to evaluate the quality of the responses given in the table topics. So it's all learning. So there's only 2 types of inter-club meetings. Now let's move on to even more complex ones. You can have competitions between clubs. We have them already, formal ones, but you can easily have a club in the UK having a competition with a club in Ireland. And you can have independent judges, and you can have all sorts of fun like that. You can have 2 clubs deciding, hey, our members would like to do something which stretches them in a new way. Our members would like to get out of the house. Simple as that. How to get out of the house that constrains their head, puts them into a new situation. Terrific stuff. Now, even more interesting, we get into debating contests between clubs. I was at one last week, a contest between 2 clubs. Well, one was a Toastmasters club in Cork, 500th meeting they'd had since 2009. Very special meeting. We might have talked about it before. You might have heard about it. And they were up against a debating club from Dublin, non-Toastmasters. So there's an example of debating skills. Debating is, that's another one. Now let's talk about international relationships. Toastmasters international organization. Almost everyone's in favor of world peace and better relations between countries and cultures and all of that. But you can have meetings which are specifically designed for clubs in one country to meet with clubs in another country. It can be just one club for the purpose of education, for the purpose of cultural exchanges. In fact, also for the purpose of arranging so that there can be house swaps between the two clubs, so that, you know, the club in Italy can meet with a club in Chennai or anywhere else you want under the sun, and that people can go on holidays to each other's. Don't underestimate the extent to which Toastmasters as a global network can be used for things that are not necessarily in the rule book. So let's go on then to joint recruitment. We have clubs around the world, both of whom have an interest in recruitment. We don't have enough members. You don't have enough members. Any of you know a club like that? And do any of you by any chance know a club that would like to have more members? And do any of you know a second club that would like to have more members? And why don't members from one club join the other club and vice versa, for example? Just a little tip. But on the other hand, why not put on joint meetings, get people to come to them? One club might have a really good public relations person. Another club might have a really good membership recruitment person. They could make a team of 2, and together they bring in a load of people and together they recruit them. And they could even agree in advance that we will only have 50% of them new members. All of these things are possible. Let's go on then. I want to rescue my club. My club is in really big trouble, really terrible trouble. We're in a very, very bad way. Could we possibly get a much better club to come in and help us rescue this club? By what? By coming along and just coming to our meetings. Means that anyone who comes in will have a better meeting than if it was only us, because we got some other people at the meeting. But secondly, they'll show us how to get better. They'll show us how to do a proper table topics. I've been in clubs which are so weak on table topics that you think, oh God, this poor club isn't ever going to recruit anybody because they don't know how to run a great table topics session. Oh, and it must break the heart of the members. Okay, everyone's trying really hard, but not being very good. Fair enough. You can try very, very hard. You can stay not being very, very good, and it's noble. But if you want to succeed, get ahead and lift your club to the next level, I'd suggest you consider getting an inter-club meeting. What about an area collaboration? Toastmasters divided up into areas, 4, 5, or 6 clubs. Why aren't they having joint meetings? Now, in Ireland, we've got a real disability. There's a culture of closing down over the summer. So why don't the whole area decide, hey, instead of us all feeling bad and sheepish about the fact that we're closing our club down for the month of June, July, and August, why don't we make it a positive thing and say, we're going to just get out of our comfort zone and hold meetings that are area meetings instead. And that's a bonus rather than a disability. Let's talk up Toastmasters, and let's get to the final one, which is all about twinning. Twinning. How about twinning your club? Now, I know clubs, by the way, that twin. I know a club in Ireland, in the east coast of Ireland. I think it's Newbridge, I think it is. It's twinned with club in Germany. Twinning is a big thing, very easily done, very easy to set up. I almost set one up for Barney Club last night when I was at a meeting. And I said, look, would you guys ever think of twinning with a club in Cork? Sure, look, they were dying to twin with our club. And I said, look here, I don't know, our committee is very discriminating. We might not be willing. They might not be good enough for us. No, joking apart, in all seriousness, the idea of twinning clubs is superb. So look, there's just 10 simple examples of how I want you to add to the 10 that I've given you. And my call to action today is for you to extend the list of 10 club collaborations to 20, right, during the coming week, and send in an email to Ted Melanphy, care of irishtalkers.com, and tell Ted the 10 forms of interclub collaboration that I forgot to mention.
Paul, can I come in on that actually?
Yes,
it just reminds me of 4 years ago when we did a speakathon. We did it for a charity, and we got all the clubs in Cork to take part in it, and it went on for 12 hours. And what it was, there were mini meetings, and there were people just came in for half an hour. But the charity was for the children's cancer ward in the local hospital in CUH. And we had a fantastic day, and we raised 14,000 euros.
Okay, fundraising, interclub activities.
Yeah, which was, and you know, it was fantastic. Number one, it was a beautiful thing to do. But number two, it was a real opportunity of good PR for Toastmasters. You know, and Mike McGrath, who was the president of Blarney at the time, Mike and I organised it, and it turned into a fantastic success. So that's something else you can do with club collaborations, and you can think outside the box as well. Not just about Toastmasters all the time, but how you can help your community as well, you know.
Okay, Ted, we've now got 11.
Okay. Well, I'm going to have to work on the other 9. Right. What about Gemma? Gemma, our guest. Gemma, have you any suggestions to what way do you think club collaboration could be used?
Can I be completely honest right now? I am just remunerating on the 11 that you just shared with me, because I think this is an absolutely amazing list. And the reason why I say that is because I'm a part of 2 clubs, and they both provide very different environments. And one, let's say, is struggling more than the other one in terms of the numbers, especially just during the lockdown situation that we're experiencing. So what you've given me now is actually just gold dust. I'll be honest with you, I wasn't thinking like generating ideas. I was like, what? This is what we could be doing to either increase numbers and just kind of jazz up the environment, but also because I'm a member of 2 clubs in Bristol, how I can, and plus other members who both are part of both clubs, how we can be that bridge. So I love these ideas. And if I do have any, I'll send, I'll lead the way. I'll lead the way. I'll send that email.
Yeah, well done. And you'll be amazed, actually, that when you reach out and touch some of the ones that Paul was after speaking about, you'll have people who will come up with their own little creations, and they'll say, look, Gemma, did you ever think of this or that? Or so that's what it's all about. That's part of the magic that happens, the electricity that flies between our brains just when we start the conversation.
One thing, by the way, all of these suggestions I put on the table, they're already being done. They're drawn from my personal knowledge of clubs that are already doing this. There are loads of things that haven't yet even been imagined. Give you a little example. There's a group of people in a club on the other side of the world that are they got a whole lot of members in their club who are keen on golf. We've got a club called Toastmasters for Golf. So we're going to hold a joint meeting in a clubhouse on a golf course. And we're going to record the table topics as we play golf. There's going to be a lot of... Now, that hasn't yet been done.
That's brilliant.
There you go. That's number 12.
That's number 12. Yeah. Well done. And that with the shout of 4, that brought us to a nice conclusion of episode 3. And please come back tomorrow, because we're going to be getting our guest to do a lot of the talking tomorrow. We're going to explore. We're going to give 1 or 2 questions that she may like to answer, and we'll see what Gemma Nevers. We'll see what this lady, incoming president, we'll see what makes her get enthused about Toastmasters. So we'll see you tomorrow. Bye.
Actually, Ted, just a small request. No, I'm not getting in the way of you and Gemma.
You can come in. We'll call you in too.
Yeah, but I look, it's about time I said less. But the key thing is that will you please ask Gemma about stuff that has nothing to do with Toastmasters, right?
Okay.
Because this is somebody who comes to 2 or 3 or 4 or even 6 Toastmasters meetings in a week, which is only about 12 hours. Now, the number of hours she spends in the rest of the week dwarfs that, So frankly, people talk about going to a lot of Toastmasters. It's what do they do in the 95% of their week, which isn't Toastmasters?
Sleeping.
That's what I'm interested in. Personally.
Okay.
But that's...
Okay.
I'm just stepping back now because I, you know me, I'll fill any vacuum.
Okay. Thanks, Paul. Paul knows now that I'm traveling up. I have a 5-hour journey, Gemma, ahead of me. 5-hour,
wow.
A 5-hour drive. Well, that's not down to distance alone. It's down to the state of some of the roads as well. You know what I mean? It's not going to be motorway all the way, if you know what I mean.
Okay, no worries at all. I wasn't going to compliment your driving then.
Oh, I know, or even my car. I remember a fella said that to me one time. He said, "How long would it take you to get from here to there?" And I'd say, "Usually about 6 hours." And he said to me, "I used to have a car like that one time, but I got rid of it."
Well, Ted,
you never know the answer you're going to get.
On Saturday week, I'll have a 10-hour drive.
Or you muted, my dear. You're chatting away there, but we can't read your lips.
Ted, you have to go in 4 seconds. Or sorry, 4 minutes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. On Saturday week, Ted, I have a 10-hour drive. 3 hours.
10-hour drive.
3 hours to
That's
Rosslare
nothing,
and
guys.
7 hours to
Mario should
Cambridge.
give up that old donkey.
Guys, that's nothing. I've got a 300-day drive ahead of me. There's that number of drive left in the year.
Brilliant. I should have said nothing about my 5-hour drive.
No.
Okay,
And I thought you were talking, when you said the 300-hour drive, Paul, I thought you were talking about the golf course.
No, not at all. It's just I spend my entire life driving around my house.
Driving the rest of the family mad, is it?
Correct.
Standard.
Imagine living with me, Ted. Oh my God.
I couldn't.
Traumatized.
Okay,
You're too
are we
honest, Paul.
ready
Come on,
to
Mara, call us in there and we get the show on the road.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, go.
Welcome, Toastmasters, would-be Toastmasters listeners and friends. If you've been listening to the last 3 episodes over the last 3 days, you will know that we're having a great time this week on the talk show for talkers. And this part of the show is where we get to explore and we get to delve and we get to ask questions of our guests. So I'm delighted to say that our special guest this week, Gemma Nevers, is still with us. And Gemma, what I would like to know, if you don't mind me asking, what kind of business are you involved in?
No, you are free to ask anything, Ted. You go ahead. In terms of let me start with my role. So I'm the head of customer success, and really that's a kind of a hybrid of like sales and account management with a splash of marketing. So let's just cover that. And then in terms of the actual business itself, then I work for a international or worldwide photo and video production company headquartered in London. I'm based in Bristol. The team are worldwide. And we create content for businesses trying to obviously increase their brands, increase their sales, whether that be in property, whether that be events, but events in person, obviously, when that was a thing, we were large there.
Very interesting. And what kind is it video content you do, or is it, what kind of advertising would we do? Because I know lots of people who are in the event industry, but because of the lockdown, you've taken a big hit.
Oh yeah, 100%. So that was a large chunk of our business. So pre-pandemic, then it would be all in-person events, whether that just be capturing like live streaming essentially, or that would be capturing like a highlight video, really just working to the brief of the client. And everybody has different requirements based on their marketing or brand opportunities, let's say, for their online presence. So, not saying we can do anything, but remit of creating content for visual content, then yes, we're able to work to your brief.
Yeah, oh God, it sounds intriguing. Actually, I'm sure I'd love to have done something like that.
You still can, Ted.
How did you get into that business, Gemma?
So before, I was working for a stock photography company when I used to live in Southeast Asia, and I really loved working in the business side of a creative environment, just for the duality of it, because I love visuals. So for me, it's just kind of applying my strengths within an industry that I love and respect. Fantastic.
Yeah. So you think in pictures, do you?
Yes. Thinking still pictures, moving pictures, no pictures. I think in numbers.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, you're an Imagineer, so yeah, that's beautiful. And Walt Disney, that's what exactly Walt Disney was. He was an Imagineer, and it all started with him with a mouse.
There you go, and the rest is history.
Yeah, and we have a gentleman in our club, actually, Rob Stevens, and he's in the event business as well, but he's into doing cartoons and stuff like that. Have you got an office in Ireland?
No, we do not.
You could have businesses from Ireland who'd collaborate with you.
Yes, 100%. So in terms of like the head office, it's in London, but in terms of where we operate, then we could, be in Ireland. I could be in Ireland, So thankfully, in terms of how, not for us, because we've always been remote to an extent, just in terms of how the company works and our business model. But for us, what has been beneficial, and I think that will pay dividends more down the line, is how everybody else has converted to the remote element and how you can do business online and still achieve and drive results.
That's a fantastic attitude and a great way to be looking at what is a very dark cloud, but in every cloud there's a silver lining.
Yes.
And you are looking at it. You're not looking at it as a problem. You're looking at it as an opportunity to create. Very, very, very refreshing.
100%. And, I think with the pandemic, that's the duality of it, isn't it? That some of us have really benefited from that in all areas of our life. But then, unfortunately, some others of us have not. And I think we have to understand and respect both sides of the coin, and obviously the people who land in the middle.
Yeah, and you're right. And, you used some words when we were interviewing you on Saturday, and you talked about the inventiveness of individuals, and you also spoke about gratitude, because if you can be grateful for what you have, everything else can be put into context.
Oh yes, 100%. And I hope, I speak for myself, but I hope for many others, for example, within my network, I know that is true, that the pandemic has really made you kind of take stock, just that little bit more, with a little more granular detail, to be grateful, actually look at what you have, and also what is necessary. Yes. I think for me, it's that, like, what really is necessary for me to be Gemma functioning all day, every day. What do I actually really need to achieve that? And before you kind of put all this frills and bows and all the fluff around it, but now you can kind of skim it right back. And just kind of go with the necessities, and instead of all the other stuff that isn't really warranted.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Great. That's a great attitude to have, actually. That's a great attitude. And as a matter of interest, have you ever been to Ireland?
Yes, I have. I've been to Dublin. That would have been, oh my gosh, last time 2008, maybe 2008, 2009.
Oh, right. Were you ever?
What was it for? It was for a birthday party.
Oh, right, yeah. Good place to go for a birthday party, all right. Did you travel outside Dublin? Did you come down to Cork, down to the Blarney Stone or anything?
No, I didn't. But now I know you guys. Obviously, I got a reason to.
Oh, yeah. Our club or the hotel that we have our meetings in look out on Blarney Castle.
Oh, there you go.
Idyllic,
I'll be there.
beautiful.
Yes.
Ted means the hotel where we used to have our meetings before we went international.
Yeah.
Now that we're an international club, which will continue to meet on, excuse me, I'm broken record. I just want to make it clear to the outside world that Blarney Club meets in other places other than a local hotel.
Yes.
Always recruiting. I love that, Paul.
Oh, yeah. And it's something it's something that has happened to Toastmasters since the pandemic, or because of the pandemic, that we've truly become internationalized, because we all have the ability to travel around and visit people in their own countries, and not just in their own countries, but in their own homes.
Yes.
You know, when Spock said, "Beam me up there, Scotty," little did he think that Zoom was following up on that. So it's where fiction is turned to fact.
That's it. Where dreams become reality, right? Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's exactly it, you know, so it's wonderful. And as a matter of interest, Jimmy, you're in District 91, isn't it?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, and the lady who put us onto you and told us about this effervescent ball of energy who'd love to come on the show was Antonia Harrison.
Look at that. How kind.
And she is some ambassador for Toastmasters.
I think for many of us who have been in Toastmasters and become more indoctrinated in terms of what it is and what it offers, that I think just as a byproduct of that, you can't help but just speak about others and community members who you meet and just what it does for your life.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you're so right. You're so right. Yeah. Go ahead, Paul.
Gemma, I wanted to ask you, because you're a communicator and you're somebody who's obviously aiming to get better and better as a communicator. If I gave you a topic on which you could speak and a purpose, one topic and one purpose in front of the United Nations, right? So I'm just picking that as a really big. Let's assume there's nothing bigger than addressing the General Assembly of the United Nations. And so we introduce you, and the question is what, and you can talk about anything you want, any issue at all. And you're only going to get one shot, because they ain't going to invite you back next week for the topic which you really wished you'd spoken about. So here's your question, and this is your table topic, because I'm giving it to you, a little table topic. What are you going to speak about? And can we have the first 30 seconds of your speech?
Wow, Paul, you're giving it to me. You are doing it. The United Nations, what would I speak about? If I was able to present at the United Nations, what I would talk about would be humanity. And what would be the purpose of my speech would be kindness. And why would I focus on kindness? Because I feel over the past 14 months, what we have seen, whether that be online or offline, have been large steps in both humanity and kindness, where some of us have been skeptics previously that humanity or the younger generations are going in the wrong way. I feel that that has been challenged by what we have seen as a result of the pandemic, and humanity and kindness has been restored. And I hope that continues forever and a day, even when I'm dust. That if that's 30 seconds, I hope I've done you proud.
I've got a tiny supplementary, and I only put this to you because you're so strong a communicator. I want to hear the first line, the very first line of your speech. And it does not include general members of the General Assembly or anything like that. It's the
Okay.
line to grab the attention of your audience. Gemma.
Kindness. When was the last time you were a recipient of kindness?
And a tremendous applause from Paul. Thank you so much. I don't think I've ever thrown anybody such a public challenge in public, being recorded for posterity. So when the invitation comes, you are not to feel obliged to speak on that theme. You do not feel yourself hemmed in. What you said today is what you said today. But thank you. I just want to thank you. Thank you so much. I knew you would relish and rise to that challenge.
And Paul, and
Thank
Gemma,
you.
and that's a lovely way to wrap up this week's talk show for talkers. And Gemma, I think that's a very noble thing that you are going to speak about when you're invited to the United Nations. Kindness, and particularly the kindness that has been shown throughout the world by younger people, how they've helped out their elders in this particular very trying time of the pandemic. Gemma, it has been an absolute pleasure and a privilege, and I hope you tell everybody from your two clubs to listen in at 4 o'clock on Saturday, because you gave us some fantastic answers. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. Well done, Gemma. That was excellent. I really enjoyed that. Well done.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you, Paul, for throwing down the gauntlet. Love that. Table topics? Table topics? What, now? In the afternoon?
Yeah.
Well,
And
Gemma,
in front of the United Nations, imagine.
Yeah,
what we did at Blarney Toastmasters last meeting, Paul?
Sorry, just guys, one small little fine detail. Have we closed the show down?
The show's closed. The show's closed.
Okay, so we don't need to record any more of an ending. I don't need to say goodbye to the listeners, no?
You don't. No, you don't. We are all complete and done and finished and ended.
All right.
So before the three of you start the conversation, I am going to run, lads, because I have a long journey ahead of me. Gemma, thank you again for being a wonderful guest.
No worries. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
no worries.
Thanks, Moira. Gemma,
You were worth waiting for.
See you later.
You were worth waiting for.